yourselves, not following the trends. That's kind of very kind of punk rock ethos that we have. Truly be yourself. Don't follow these things. There's a bunch of reasons. Still was saying earlier in the meeting that we've had a warm reception here. People from Korea have been interested in what we're doing, which is always what you want. So I mean that's really the reason. It's a vibrant city. There's a lot happening here. A lot of really interesting, young, creative people. And that's something that I think we're attracted to. We don't want to give ourselves too much credit for those things. It's misleading. All we've done is try to run a responsible business. That's the idea.
Yeah.
It's like, how can business be a little bit better than it's been in the past, right? We're not some champions of any single cause in any way. All we are is a business that says we should build better products, places where we know people are treated well. We should speak about things that we care about or are important, highlight some problems, donate money where we can, or participate in hopefully problem solving. I think how we came to that was because we always thought that's how business should operate. A business shouldn't leave a wake of destruction behind it. A business should be used for better things. And it's tricky because it's not really possible to own a business and be 100% sustainable or do no damage, or there's always something that comes up.
Yeah.
It's never ending.
Someone's losing out somewhere. The environment,
right?
Or, but we try to create ultimately win-win situations. We're not fully capitalistic in the way we approach business. We feel like there can be, it's a shared responsibility, there's enough to go around, we want to have good relationships with our partners, and if that, and being responsible also to the environment, if it means like not doing anything, making anything in plastic, then we're not going to make anything in plastic. It's just, we can make more responsible choices. That way we can also feel just more, I think it's important to think about every decision along the way and make the most responsible choice, and that means sacrificing sometimes, but sacrificing creatively.
Fundamentally, sacrifice is the issue, right? If you can even call it sacrifice, because the problem with business generally, any business, is human greed. Right? So humans just want more and more and more and more. And that's how businesses are run. They're run to make as much money as possible.
Right.
And that's not necessary.
It's not.
You don't have to make as much as possible. You can make enough for your life. And I think that's at the core of what we do. Right? We won't make decisions to make tons of money if we know it's going to be this incredibly damaging thing. And it's hard to do. Like you don't always have all the information everywhere in the world to make the right decision. Sometimes you think you're making the right decision, you find out you haven't.
It's a learning process.
But it's the intention that matters. Right? Like I can't know everything. I still can't know everything. But we can intend, we can try to make the right decisions. And in that attempt, we will make the right decision more times than not and do less damage as a business. So it really comes down to like how much is enough. And I think, the system that we're living in, for the most part globally, is just fundamentally too greedy. And in order for someone to have incredible wealth, somebody has to have incredible poverty. Actually, more people have poverty for fewer people to have wealth. And that's something we don't feel comfortable with. So we operate the business with that in mind and try and make more responsible decisions so things are a little more equitable as possible. I mean, everything's changed. It's all changed.
Story time.
It's not even like little things that have changed. The entire universe has changed. I mean, even the word streetwear wasn't a word we used back in the 80s and the early 90s. We didn't say streetwear. The industry said streetwear. They called it streetwear. We were just clothing companies, making things that nobody else was making for people that were interested in things that nobody else was interested in. They were subcultures. So the fact that it's in the billions and billions of dollars as an industry, as part of an industry, right? Like streetwear is part of a much bigger fashion world, is surprising, and it means that fundamentally everything operates differently. in the early days, people were just doing things that they were interested in. Graffiti artists would like make some T-shirts. Skateboarding kids would be like, nobody's making clothes that I like, so I'll go make something. Like it was very kind of DIY mentality. When the industry grows and it becomes what it is today, people go into it primarily, probably for money, more than love, because they're mainstream and the medium has changed, right? Like, it used to take years for people to know about something in Paris or in New York or London or Seoul or Tokyo or wherever. Now it takes about 5 minutes. Right? Something happens, somebody posts about it, and it goes, and everybody everywhere knows about it. So there's no time for subcultures or even businesses with communities around them to develop their own world before somebody else comes in and either takes some of it or wants to lift them out of obscurity. So things don't have a chance to mature and have like a real kind of like foundation or platform to work from going forward. You have to work really hard. You have to actually fight against notoriety to stay kind of like simple. Because the world that we live in now wants to take things and just blow it up overnight. So that's a huge change. I mean, the whole thing is built on that, like the quality of the cloth is everything. Like sewing matters, obviously. It's not like it doesn't matter, but like if you can sew a garment in a cheap fabric, it's a cheap garment.
It's still going to fall apart.
Right. When you sew a garment with great fabric, it's going to last much longer. Right? So that's at the core of what we do. We're asking people to kind of buy better things, keep them longer, not move in and out of things very quickly. Focus more on their individual style than trends. Right? That's at the very, very core of it. We're interested in people being themselves, not following the trends. That's kind of very kind of punk rock ethos that we have. Truly be yourself. Don't follow these things. Follow them everywhere, obviously. But it's fine. I mean, I was there 15 years or so, and I was there in the early days, and even before Supreme, I was part of the community that like even led to a Supreme, right? Like culturally speaking, like Supreme was addressing things that some of us might have been interested in, but there weren't a lot of places to get those things, right? There wasn't anybody who really understood that we were kind of like skateboard kids, but also interested in all these other things, like fashion and art and whatever. So it never feels like a problem for me. I mean, it seems like a perfect kind of like trajectory. It's just the reality of things in my.
He was part of a huge, major part of Supreme's success. He's got a lot to be proud of. So it's fine.
You can see bits and pieces of my life throughout this whole thing, from the time I was 13 working at a surf skate shop to the time I was working with my friend Don on his company Pervert to Supreme, to, all the way through. There's little bits and pieces of like what I didn't realize at the time I was picking up and retaining as part of like just like what I was going to put back into the world at a later date, right? And then with the addition of Estelle, right, there's whole other elements that come into the business from her life and her history and her interests as well. Like the design of the store is a perfect example of that, right? Like, would the store be this good if I did it? Probably not. So it's really interesting that you take the sum of everything you've done in your life and it comes back out eventually. You own that information. Luckily for both of us, still grew up in England and spent a lot of periods in London. I grew up in New York and spent a lot of my time in and around the city. We were in places that gave us a lot of information. A lot of information. Exposed to many different types of music as they were happening. I was there for the birth of hip hop. I was there for post-punk and new wave. Rave culture came over from England, and then we were, that was really interesting to us. So skateboarding blowing up, all of these things. When you're in New York or if you're in London, you're kind of there for it. So you own that information. You haven't read about it. You participate in it. So when those things come back out, and you reintroduce it to the world in the form of a t-shirt or a sweatshirt or any kind of storytelling component, it's real.
I've always wanted to create in these kind of environments, shopping experience, hanging out experience that just feel like exactly this. This concept where you can come into a place and not just, beautiful clothing, but incredible art, music, or books, all of those things, and it's an evolving world, and it's our world. So it's very authentic. It just kind of comes naturally. It's like we're sharing our
English
world.
cloth suits right there, and then surfboards and wetsuits over there. I mean, it's a little strange, but it's
It works
for
out.
us.
It works
Yeah.
out perfectly.